I'd like to thank you everyone for joining. This is a really, really exciting event, and um, yeah, this is like the 1 year of DVT. SSV launched on Mainnet in December in 2023. Indeed. So yes, this is a call to commemorate this. Like really amazing event. We have a bunch of people we have person from the from the SSV DAO. We have myself from the SSV Labs team and Alex as well, and then Zach from the Sigma Prime team that's going to be sharing some exciting news. For those of you that are not aware yet, if you're not, I do not know why. Hey, and there we have Alon, founder of SSV Labs. So let's jump into it. So today's chat is going to be, or community call rather, is going to be friendly. We're taking it easy. We have some exciting things to discuss from what happened in 2024 up to what are we doing in 2025. We have some very interesting news coming from the DAO, and then also, like I mentioned, Zach will be sharing some really cool info from the Sigma Prime team. Before I just want to let everyone know, if you are participating in you should be participating in the Zili raffle. Throughout the call, I will be giving 3 words that you need to kind of get access to the raffle. So one thing to remember, note it down if you forget. Everything is in capitals and there are no spaces. So just to make sure that you actually get into the raffle. So during the call, I'll be giving little secret snips. Maybe something like the first word is no, maybe not that ambiguous, but yes. As we get started, I think I'll even just give the first word because we're nice guys here at SSV. The first word is, you probably guessed it, SSV all caps. So yeah, now that admin and housekeeping is out of the way, really excited to get started. So I think the best way to go is maybe we can all talk about the year that's gone past. There's a lot of things that happened, but I see everyone in the call is kind of a different perspective, so this should be really nice. So what I would ask is every person, can you please just share like your biggest highlight of the year so far? Well, there's like 15 days left of the year. Guess something exciting could happen, but everything up till now, if you just say a few words. And I think GBeast, why don't you take it away because you're in the top left of my screen.
Well, I don't know if it's fair to say this, but certainly the most exciting thing within the past year and maybe a day would be the launch of Mainnet. Right? That's why we're all here. That was super exciting after all the hard work that's gone into preparing the network and building it. But I guess if that were not to be allowed, I might say maybe the Allen fork, because that takes us up to the next level of operation. And I know I saw some great performance enhancements in the operators I run when that came out. So I was really pleased to see that, I'm going to have the capacity I need to keep building my operation. So I think that's great. That was exciting for me.
Nice. That's pretty cool. Like maybe just a short interjection. What kind of results did you actually see?
It varied from different servers. I run a bunch of DApp nodes that all run, that all have nodes, operators on them. But one of them dropped from like 79% capacity down to about 20% capacity. And that was a big improvement for me. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome. Nice to see tangible benefits like that. All right, I think I'll just nominate people. Zach, what is yours? You're not a part of the SS. You are now, but what for you has been a highlight?
Yeah, let's say my highlight's gonna be introduced later on in this call.
Okay, cool. A nice little surprise, I guess. And Alon, what is yours? Alon, you're muted. Alon, unfortunately, we can't hear you.
How
I think
about
maybe.
now?
Hey, there we go.
Okay,
that's it.
perfect. So again, for the third time, it's great to be here. Anyone is kind of started their holidays, happy holidays. I think for me the best or the most interesting point of the year was right about, I would say, kind of April, around that time, where we understood that we finally hit it. Like we finally understood that there's demand for SSV and people want to transition and use it. I think that was really, really a great point. Seeing this kind of hockey stick type of growth, and that was super, super exciting. We're now just crossed the 50K active validators. So we're closing in on the 5% of Ethereum kind of landmark. And I don't know if we'll pass it by end of year, but definitely very early next year. And there's a lot of exciting integrations and users and developers coming in that I can't still talk about it, but like a lot of them are super, super interesting. And of course, kind of our plans for 2025. And so I think that carrying over from understanding in year one that we've hit narrative and people want to adopt DBT towards developing it and kind of scaling it, I think that's super exciting.
100%. I think that was close to the time we hit like a million ETH staked to kind of realize that shit. Hitting a million ETH staked within like 6 months or something it's definitely quite notable. And Alex, last but not the least, what is your highlight?
Yeah, I know, right? So many milestones to touch upon, and I think everyone brings across so many great things so far. But if I'm to touch upon two and really zooming out from SSV itself, I think really at the first part of the year was really the restaking market catalyzing things within our industry, and SSV has been a big a beneficiary of that, right? So we've really established that DVT is really a homestay, not just a restaking, but really a lot of the crypto native plays and staking pools. And we've really established now that DVT is here to stay. And I think to touch upon something else as well is the second half of the year, we had the results of the US election. And as part of that, we think we might have some positive outcomes when it comes to crypto regulation. So if we look to 2025 or beyond that, like where's the next bunch of ETH stake going to come from, and what's going to grow at the size of the ETH staking pie going forward? And that's going to be massive. And whether that's institutions or staked ETFs, there's really a lot of play here and a lot of areas where SSV can grow into and really be adopted as a technology to fortify a lot of those products going forward.
Nice. Yeah, very good take. I agree. I think especially now with the, with them looking to kind of allow staking yield, the SEC is looking to approve that. I think that's also like a very exciting thing for the future potentially.
Early days, and positive developments.
Yeah, for sure. And from myself side, I think two things really come to mind. I think firstly is when we launched the SSV Divers program. Shout out to all the community members and the SSV Divers, committed community members, in the last 5 to 6 months. They've really made an impact, people developing tools and guides for running nodes and, these things. You can see you think there for sure. Like it's really cool to see the community come together and, people that are really interested in DVT and especially vouching for SSV, being able to contribute on that. So, I think for me, that's also been a really cool milestone. And then to the next part is, we actually recently, in November, one day before DevCon, we had the first ever DVT summit. I think that's also really amazing, having an event specifically for DVT. I think really makes sense. You see, like the whole staking ecosystem is using the tech. We have integrations and grants from teams and node operators, professional node operators all over the show, all participating in SSV. And it was nice to see everyone there. So I feel like that's a really good milestone. And, it's really good to see the SSV ecosystem coming together in full force in one place, which is amazing. So that also leads me to the next part. Like, Alex, speaking of DevCon, what were your main takeaways from DevCon? Like, what was the vibe? Like, what are some of the big narratives you saw there?
I know, what a crazy week. Action-packed, full of events. I'm still digesting a lot of things, and not just the great food, but also a lot of the great events and conversations there as well. But really to give everyone on the call an overview if you didn't manage to go yourself, but really it was a meeting of minds with a lot of the top innovators and thought leaders and really top projects of the crypto ecosystem, really coalescing around the DevCon event itself, but many, many side events. I think to kick things off for the week really started in earnest with a staking summit and SSV Labs. We put a pretty big contingent down with us. We had a big event, a big exhibition booth in the middle of the room. We also, had a number of keynote spots and panel discussions. So we were super visible, and people really knew SSV was in town and really putting ourselves forward as the premier staking infrastructure and DVT, in the market. So I think with that, it was a fantastic opportunity to reinforce relationships with all of our top partners. It really felt like home court for SSV there. A lot of
For sure.
friends and family of the protocol, all of our community really there to catch up with and really aligned on a lot of our mutual interests and just see what's keeping people busy and things top of mind as we go into 2025 and unpacking a lot of the things that we could do together going forward. So super productive from that perspective. And then going later into the week, Robert, as you said, we had our DVT summit, super successful, really to provide an intimate place to really, update our community on all the great initiatives that we're working on, such as launching Sigma Prime, our roadmap ahead to 2025. And then again, bringing people kind of new to the protocol, but want to try DBT to, come on down, speak with them and introduce them to what we're doing. So really a fantastic event, and hats off to everybody that worked on making that such a great success. So over the week itself, tons of panel discussions and keynotes and a lot of great things. But to really pull away some key takeaways that I myself got from the week, I think the energy was clear. That I think it's a really decisive inflection point. I think, given that in the week itself we had the result of the US election, the market was going bananas, and I think that really brought a positive vibe to this conference week compared to other weeks that we've been to over the year. And then in itself, there's meeting a ton of projects that are building advanced validator solutions and staking solutions itself. So it's beginning to become clearer to us that there's more being asked of validators these days compared to just purely focusing on the primary staking duties. So a lot of food for thought there. And lastly, itself, we had Justin Drake's announcement of the Beam Chain. I think maybe to unpack that itself is probably a bit outside of the scope of the call today, but tons of food for thought, and exciting times ahead. A lot of discussion on crypto Twitter itself, but I think those are the key things that I took away from the week, and really exciting things ahead, I think.
Nice. Completely agreed. The vibe was amazing. A lot of good talks. I think a lot of interesting things coming from pre-com, space sequencing. Like all of those things are, really exciting things to come out of the DevCon week. So yeah, thank you for sharing your perspective. I don't know. I know Alon was also there with us. Zach, GB, did you guys attend? Damn shame. It was very good. But we'll definitely make some time for that. Well, I mean, in 2 years' time, I guess. But Zach, on to you. And Alex alluded a little bit to it, and we alluded a bit to it. Well, we've announced it anyway. But please, can you tell us more about like why you're here and what you guys are working on?
Yeah, awesome. So to start off, my name's Zach. I am one of the engineers over at Sigma Prime, and I'm here to just kind of introduce what we're collaborating with SSV on. So just some background on Sigma Prime for people who don't know. We are a blockchain research development firm, also a lot of security stuff. There are kind of two sides of the house. There is the security side, which takes on a lot of audits, making sure everything's good in that area. Then there's also the development side, which mainly focuses on Lighthouse, which is probably what most people here know Sigma Prime from. Lighthouse is obviously one of the bigger consensus clients. Been around for quite a while. It's got a lot of stake behind it. It's widely used, trusted, and yeah, that's one of the big areas that Sigma Prime focuses on. And kind of what I'm here to interest today. I don't. You guys might have seen the blog post about it or other posts, but the Anchor client. So the Anchor client is the new project we are taking on, which is basically a SSV client written in Rust. Its focus is on security and performance, and yeah, it's to introduce a new client into the ecosystem. Anchor, the name, it kind of follows our nautical theming, like Lighthouse. We're also toying around with some nautical theme release names, so that's kind of fun. Kind of as why this client is needed, obviously mentioned earlier, the SSV protocols gained a lot of stake. It's getting a lot of new users. It's growing in popularity a lot, and there's only one client right now. Obviously, that's not ideal. Like the execution and consensus clients, there are multiple different clients you can choose from that really increases the robustness and general fault tolerance of the network. So if something happens to one client, the entire network doesn't go down. That's kind of where Anchor comes in by having introducing this new client into the system. Now people have the option to run either our client or the Go clients, and that client diversity will be very good to the general well-being of the ecosystem. The more things on that, the client is all open source. So if you head over to Sigma Prime's GitHub, it is currently undergoing active development. It's aimed to be a very modular and clean code base that other protocols can build upon and use. We want it to have a very like I said, modular structure where other projects can just bring in components that they need, and also Lighthouse can use parts of Anchor that it sees fit. And within that, we also get a chance to really take a look at the Lighthouse client and make sure everything's good there and use a lot of those components in Anchor. Obviously, Lighthouse is battle tested, it's secure, it's been running for a very long time. So we want to take a lot of the learnings there and whatever we can and apply it to Anchor to basically get this secure and performant client. Other than that, I mentioned it's open source. We got an independent team working on this, full-time team working on this that has kicked off, all onboarded, starting to chug along with development, which is super exciting. Other than that, better staking experience, get two clients to choose from, more fault tolerance, and in general, it's just more of a joint research, process. Learnings from Anchor can be applied to Lighthouse, and learnings from Lighthouse can be applied to Anchor. That's gonna help a lot. It's super cool, super exciting. In terms of more timeline things, like I mentioned, we have kicked off development. Teams all onboarded, and we're chugging a long way with that. For Q1 of 2025, we'll be looking to have a mainnet, be able to connect to mainnet and interop with Go SSV. Then more of Q2 of 2025, we want to have differential fuzzing set up, which is where we'll basically just iron out all the bugs, make sure everything's working as it should. Around that time too, we want to really optimize this client, get it to run fast as possible, make sure it's secure, nothing's going wrong with it. And then more towards the end of Q2 to Q3, we're looking to do a production release where everybody will be able to use the new client. So yeah, we're super excited to take this on. We think we're a good candidate for this project through a lot of the learnings with Lighthouse. Obviously, I mentioned it's written in Rust. We know Rust well. We know how to write it well. So we're excited to ship this client and increase the client count on the network so everybody can use. So yeah, that kind of sums up what we're working on, and yeah, excited to ship this out to you guys.
Beautiful. Thank you for giving us a bit of that overview, and thank you for joining. I think it's nice that you're able to come be here live with us. especially for the towards the end of the year and looking towards the new year. So yeah, I definitely want to remind people that if you are running nodes in what do you say, Q2, Q3, definitely start testing it out. I think it's going to be a really exciting time. So without further ado, I'd like to invite GBs to the stage and talk to us a little bit about all the DAO related things happening. Take it away, sir.
Great, glad to be here. It's funny, I was listening to that talk and about how they're coming up with new nautical related names, and all I could think of was like manatee. There's got to be one called manatee because they're cute and cuddly and everybody loves them. So put that in your inbox.
I'll propose that.
So yeah, so I'm here to represent the DAO today. I'm the chair of the Verified Operator Committee, so one of the committees of the DAO, and I get to sit in the big chair today and act as the spokesman, which is very exciting for me. So I'm going to start with a review of kind of what the DAO has done over the last year, and then looking forward to next year, what we're looking ahead to. And I want to start with the snapshot votes that the DAO has taken. I want to start with that because I see that as being the primary thing that involves our whole community with the governance of the DAO and of the SSV project. Over the last year, we've taken 16 different snapshot votes. And so some of the highlights of that, so some of them are related to efficiencies, making the network work better. And so that's like the batch operations upgrade, where we made it possible to upload a number of validators all at once rather than doing one at a time. So it's an efficiency thing that makes the network work better. There were a number of snapshot votes that related to marketing and public relations. So for example, we funded the SSV Divers program. We allocated some funding to assume ownership of the different SSV network marketing channels. So that's like the Discord that we're on now, taking the ownership of that, and of the YouTube channel and of the Twitter channel. All these things, bring them in under a single umbrella and funding that so that we could more effectively get our marketing message out. And it also includes things like enhancing our partnerships. So we have relationships that we funded with EtherFi and with Lido, both of them making agreements to fund some tokens to help enhance their community members and bring them into our community and reward them for working together, make things work better. So we've got efficiency, we've got marketing, and then there's some just basic operational stuff. Updating and extending the incentivized mainnet program that's brought in so much TVL into the protocol. Onboarding market makers for the SSV token so that we can have liquidity for the token. And then just generally, I think the biggest line item is always undergoing the ongoing development of the platform. And that's the grant we give to SSV Labs to fund the research, development, bug fixes, all the things that are helping us grow this network so significantly. So that's kind of the bulk of the things we voted on. There are two other ones we just did that I want to sort of highlight. That's protocol improvement 25 and 26. 25 was one that was really in the works for a long time. It was how do we ensure the long-term stability of the DAO and of community voting? Sometimes projects get anchored down. They're stuck and they're unable to make decisions because they can't get enough involvement from community members. And so this one is a way that helps ensure we always can get to quorum, and that by selecting highly involved community members to have a big voice in how things are run. And so that one spent months in discussion. So I really want to give a thumbs up to all the people who worked on it. A lot of discussions back and forth on how do we balance community needs versus operational needs, making sure things are balanced, but making sure we don't get stuck. So that was a big one. And then, of course, number 26 was approving the 4-year budget for the DAO. And I think that really shows some of the growth that we've done as an organization, moving from kind of the startup mode where it's always like, what are we going to do next month? What are we going to do next quarter? And now we're trying to say, okay, what are we going to do over the next 4 years? How are we going to fund this? And what's our funding going to look like? And how much are we going to spend? So I think that is a real sign of the growth and maturity of the organization. And so that had two key parts. One was the budget itself. And the second was, how do we build a reserve treasury for the DAO so that we are not totally dependent on the day-to-day price fluctuations of the SSV token? And so it's laying out a roadmap for building up a treasury of the DAO that will get us through hard times if they come, but mean that we're not always just looking at the SSV token price and clutching our pearls. So those are kind of the big snapshot votes that we've done that are such an important part of the overall DAO experience. The last thing I want to touch on is what I sort of think of as the evolution of our DAO leader, Ben Affleck, who's been so integral to the project for so long. He has announced that he's moving from being the sort of the chairman of the DAO. He's going to be now the program manager over at the SSV Foundation. I sort of think of it like a Pokemon evolving into a higher form. He's moving on up, and so we're very excited for him and looking for great things they're going to come next. Okay, so that's the year in review. Let's look ahead at what we see on the road ahead. So first of all, we've extended our grants program. The grants committee is administering that, which is really valuable at bringing in new innovations. They're focusing on innovative grants for new use cases, as well as more of the strategic partnerships to help bring in critical ecosystem components. So that's kind of where they're putting their focus. As we just discussed, we're going to try and support the rollout of Anchor, the second SSV client. So that's exciting. We're planning to expand the ambassador program to help more community outreach. There is, I understand, going to be something announced today about extending the incentivized Mainnet program, putting that up probably for vote. So that'll be exciting because that's been a big driver of our growth. And then, of course, a big focus on implementing the two big improvement proposals that I talked about, the budget and the community voting. So putting those into action and a lot of work making sure that those roll out smoothly. It's also going to be focused on increasing DAO transparency. So that's how do we make sure that as our committees vote, it's happening in public and people can see the results, and also that people can see like the discussions, the notes, the things that took place in the meetings. So there's going to be a focus on getting that out there so more people can see it. So that's kind of a high level of the things we're looking forward to. And here's my ask to you, the listener, the viewer, get involved with us. So, right now we're taking applications for a new grants committee member. That's open, I think, until tomorrow. So if you would like to get on the DAO and join a committee, now's your chance. Hop it in there. Let's see you. Oh, my alarm is telling me it's time to wake up. Stop that.
Luckily, you're already awake.
Yes, exactly. That's what happens when you're in the U.S. and dealing with everybody in Europe. We have to get up early. So anyway, so we're still taking applications to the grants committee. And in that note, I also want to make an announcement. We're welcoming Hackworth to the Verified Operator Committee. We have been recruiting for that for a while, conducted some interviews. Hackworth has been one of our community members for a long time. I've known him from the DAP Node project in the old days. He's been an SSV tester for a long time. He's an attorney, which is great to have that kind of brain power on the committee. And he also has been really involved with Rocket Pool and built, in fact, instructions for how to run a Rocket Pool node on top of SSV. So really, brings a lot of skills, experience in different projects, and a lot of personal life skills to the committee. So we're really excited to have him on board. And we also, we want to thank Marco, who's been on our committee now for about a year. He's stepping down as a new dad. Wish him the best of luck, great things in life, and opportunity to spend some time with his kids. So thank you, Marco. Really appreciate your support and service.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I have one last big announcement, possibly bigger than that one. So hold on to your seats, everybody.
No way.
We are announcing today that we are reopening applications to become a verified operator. And we are opening now to solo stakers and small businesses, sole proprietors, things like that. So up until now, we've only taken incorporated entities, but today we're announcing we're reopening it, and we're going to start allowing anybody who wants to apply to be a verified operator. And remember, the key criteria are you've got to have your operator running on the mainnet for at least 90 days. We want to see that you've got it up and running. And then we also need to look at your last 30 days of track record and make sure that you're at or above our benchmark. Currently, that benchmark is 95% performance. We're going to keep pushing that up over time. But if you meet those goals and you're willing to do some KYC, you got to dox yourself, you can become a verified operator. So I'm very excited. I've been waiting for this day myself. So excited to make that announcement, and we'll have the link in the chat on the boards right after the call. So those are my announcements. Glad to represent the DAO. Glad to be here, and thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is actually something I've been waiting for quite a while, and I think it's something definitely worth expanding on. So, like, why do you think it's important for solo stakers to be able to get the verified operator badge? Like, what does it mean for a solo staker to actually get this badge? You know, like, what's your take?
So when people are choosing who they're going to trust with their money, who they're going to, trust to run their validator, they want to know it's somebody who's not going to screw up, they're not going to drop the ball. So as part of the verified operator process, we're constantly monitoring the performance of our operators on a day-to-day basis. We've built a bot. I'll give a call out to Medinol for this he's a great bot builder. He builds these bots that feed into the Discord so we can monitor things there. But the bot will alert you if your operator's gone offline or if your performance has fallen below the 95% threshold. So we look at that, and if we see somebody who's fallen below, we reach out and say, hey, you need to get back up and running. And this helps assure people who are bringing their money into the network that the people with the badge, the designation, verified operator, that they do a good job and they maintain high performance standards. So that's really key, both for individuals as well as for any institution that wants to diversify their infrastructure. So if they want to get away from just having a single large provider, say we want a mix of things. We want some big providers, some little providers. We want to ensure the stability of the overall network. This lets them say, okay, well, these people that are verified, they might be solo stakers, but they're still doing, a great job, and they're worth investing in. So that is, in my mind, the primary value of the VO badge.
Completely agreed. I think it also goes very much in line with what SSV is doing in terms of promoting decentralization like that. Like, if you have a cluster, you want, big people, you want at least a few big operators running your cluster, but also solo stakers, everyone running different clients, different countries. I mean, that is how you get like the real deal decentralization, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we also want to ensure that we are baking into our tool set that people use to choose their operators, that they can filter them and say, okay, who's got good performance, who's running this client, who's running that client, who's inexpensive. All these things that would allow someone to identify a good operator candidate. And so we don't want to exclude somebody just because they're a small business or a solo staker.
For sure. I'm also planning on running my own node sometime in the future. So I mean, that is South Africa, our power has been on for 200 days straight. I think that's the green light for me to go.
90 days is all you need, so you're gold.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. So let us so last but not least, and also saving the best for last, Alon, I would love you to kind of help us understand how successful the Allen fork has been, what you've seen across the ecosystem, the feedback, and maybe after that we can discuss some of the SSV 2025 plans and vision, if you please.
Yeah, sure. So the Allen fork was really, really successful. We saw, first of all, it went through really, really great with not a lot of complications. We followed up with one or two kind of fix around problems for kind of edge cases, but other than that, pretty good. Also, I think the kind of willingness of the operator community to participate, test, and then deploy on Mainnet was pretty good. In terms of results, I mean, you guys know it better than I am, but than I do. Major drops in CPU requirement and CPU usage, networking usage, and overall, you can go to rated network and see the performance. We are the top charts. So all in all, I think that's really, really good. Allen fork was a good success. It was the first fork we did, so it also was kind of good in that sense to kind of prove that we can go through a fork and coordinate a lot of different operators and different developers and so on. So yeah, it was pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. Even on Twitter, there was lots of talk about it, like node operators all over the world, like just sharing the stats that they've seen, like bandwidth drops and CPU drops in usage. But yeah, no, it's been really cool to see, and I think, do you think it makes it easier to become an SSV node now? Less requirements, or what is your take on that?
So I think that it's more of a point to kind of keep ourselves aligned and follow the lead of the greater Ethereum community. So if Ethereum has its goal for stuff like solo stakers, client diversity, making sure that we can scale doing so in a way that it doesn't require supercomputers to run Ethereum nodes, then all of those things we need to kind of make sure we are compliant with, because ultimately we are part of a bigger community. And so we're doing a lot of efforts towards that. I mean, it was super easy not to do that and continue with higher and higher requirements in terms of resources. But I think that it's part of the ethos and something we need to follow. So in that sense, we're just kind of copying what Ethereum as kind of as a bigger community is striving for.
Yeah, completely agreed. Okay, cool. Um, I think what you're saying is like very true, and I think one of the things that SSV like really does espouse is like the Ethereum values, and kind of running it, making sure that we can continue growing, but also that there's continued participation. And I know that part of this is also being able to have more validators per node operator, which is also a big benefit.
Yeah, that's something we're actively working on. So, if we're looking post Allen at around, let's say, 80 to 90% improvement all around, then, if we can get the number of validators per node to go up to, let's say, 1,000 and potentially in the future 2,000, then you have additional layers of just scale. So, you can if with one node you can run twice the number of validators, then it's 50% the resources required, right? So because the requirements are not are increasing in a sublinear way, so it's much less than the actual growth in the number of validators per node. And so yeah, that's kind of in the future. My hopes is somewhere around in Q1 we can release a version that supports that. It's not a fork; it just requires some DAO voting because it needs to change parameters in the contracts. But other than that, it's not super complicated.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing. And I mean, since we're talking about the future, perhaps we can segue into, your vision for SSV, the vision for SSV Labs and kind of what you see SSV Network potentially pursuing into the future. And yeah.
Yeah, so I've been personally working a lot around research and ideation towards kind of a bigger scope for SSV, what I call SSV 2.0 basically. So SSV 1.0 is what we know today, which is the idea of introducing decentralized or distributed validation to Ethereum. SSV 2.0 takes it a step further and asks the question not how validators are running, but for what type of responsibilities they can assume. And so there's an interesting trend line happening, I think, with validators, which is it started out just securing Ethereum. Then MEV came along, which is just a type of service that validators can opt into and earn some extra rewards. Then, like a couple of years after that, we saw restaking, which at least of its kind of initial incarnation was the idea that you can reuse your validator to do more things and secure and bootstrap other protocols. And now we're seeing even another category being formed, which is validator commitment stuff like pre-confirmation based sequencing and so on. So the trend here is basically that on the one hand, Ethereum is very much focused on being a DA and settlement layer, which basically means that more and more of the interactions of users will become B2B2C, so blockchain to business to client. So clients will mostly interact with other businesses, stuff like L2s, and maybe we're seeing information-based sequencing, intent-based front ends, and account abstraction, all of those types of things. So on the one hand, this is one thing which is Ethereum's kind of focus. On the other hand, this thing that validators are assuming more and more responsibilities, those two trends are aligned because the more you have this B2B2C type of deal, the more you have businesses that need to build stuff and businesses to businesses building stuff. And so you need to bootstrap all of that in terms of security, in terms of decentralization, and so on. So I think SSV 2.0 will focus on a simple question: what can validators do they don't do today, and how to standardize that. So imagine a world where all of SSV validators can opt in to do other things for other protocols and earn extra rewards. Now, the implications of that is really drastically changing the economics of the validator, and so that's exciting. It's very very exciting even on that level. But think of the implications on a wider scale where you have programs like Lido and EtherFi and Rocket Pool where they offer you to put in some, let's say, 2 ETH, and then you can run a validator in the name of another service, right? So basically with 2 ETH you can run a validator. Now up until this point you earn whatever that protocol gave you, but what if you run that validator now on SSV and enable it to opt in to other services and earn extra rewards? Now all of a sudden solo stakers and small time stakers that participate in such programs now have a much bigger lever to push and can earn actually much higher rewards, which in turn will enable them to run more validators in those protocols, which in turn means that there's a bigger and bigger community or set of solo operators which are willing to run validators, not by just volunteering to do so because it's fun or maybe that's aligned with the values they see, but actually for a business purpose. And so that can actually change dramatically also the validator set of Ethereum. The idea that again you can leverage your validator, not the withdrawal credentials, but the validator itself because of its unique properties to participate and bootstrap other protocols, other services. That's a very powerful primitive, I think. And so SSV 2.0 will answer the question: how do you go about doing that in a standardized way that can scale? And so I've been heavily kind of doing that the past, I would say, 6 to 8 months. And so I'm very hopeful we can release a lot of technical details at the beginning of the year and kind of show what we think the future of not just SSV in this sense, but the future of quote unquote based applications or based services, right? Those types of services that require Ethereum validators to function. And so yeah, that's kind of the future of what I think SSV should be doing. And so yeah, we'll release more details as we kind of prep them up. We're kind of working on it as we speak. And so I think that's the kind of the focus for 2025 and maybe even further, this idea of SSV 2.0 combining this really, really great distributed infrastructure with this economical layer that enables validators to do more.
Amazing. Yeah, I love the idea. When I started like wrapping my head around it initially was very interesting process. But I think before I continue, I just want to say if anyone of the speakers, like if you guys want to dive into something, I think this is quite an interesting discussion to have. But from my personal perspective, since we've been talking about solo stakers and all of these people very often, I think this also kind of reinvigorates people to become a solo staker, to run nodes. If you can opt into different services, increase the API, which will inevitably drop as more validators join the ecosystem. I think this is also a very good way, a very Ethereum aligned way to kind of address this problem. So I'm also really excited for the future for 2025, and I'm keen to see how this all plays out. If no one has anything else to add, I think I just want to thank everyone. Well, no one, we're all good. I just want to make sure. No, we're good then. So basically, I just would like to thank everyone, for Alex, Gvist, Zach, and Alon for joining the call, for this community call for the 1 year anniversary of SSV Network. As you can see, it's been an amazing year. We've also released a blog post about it all. So if you're keen to find out a bit more about what happened during the year, what are we looking forward towards, do have a look. But yeah, I think today is a celebratory day. We're getting close to the end of the year. We're getting close to Christmas, and everything that's happened in the year has been very, very significant. The growth, the updates, the ecosystem building. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to all the contributors and all the community members that have made this possible. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining. It's been a good show, and yeah. Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
So for attending. I hope you learned good things today.
Yeah, for
Thank you.
sure. Beautiful. For those in the chat, the final word has been revealed. Remember, it's all caps. So, yeah, appreciate you guys joining. Good luck, and we will see you all in the next community call.